Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UFO, UAP news from everywhere and anywhere. So, Lou Elizondo's attorney, Dan Sheehan, revealed recently that he has world-changing UFO disclosure news. He claims that there is a video that he has access to of the ET being interviewed. And we all know that the members of the UFO community are demanding UAP disclosure, which could be catastrophic at this point if the government remains tight-lipped. The members of the House Oversight Committee are supposed to receive a classified briefing on unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAP. The classified briefing on UAP is supposed to be held in the Office of House Security. This could be the beginning of real disclosure, since the UAP issue has become serious in the U.S. Congress. David Grush's claims sparked a congressional hearing led by a bipartisan group of lawmakers from the House Oversight Committee. And there has been at least one classified briefing as well, though Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee said lawmakers learned nothing new, and he believes that the Department of Defense is keeping secrets. David Grush told Tucker Carlson about Representative Mike Turner's efforts to block the UAP Disclosure Act and destroyed Tim Burchett's career. Mike Rogers and Mike Turner, two of the dumbest people in Washington, pure tools of the national security state, said Grush. Additionally, on News Nation, Grush said Mike Turner probably has no business being the House Intelligence Committee chairman. Mike Turner has never been an intelligence officer. He's never served in the military. And he continued to say, we need to get these people out of office. As far as Dan Sheehan's world-changing evidence, for most people, the ideal UAP/alien disclosure is Hollywood-type alien exposure. This is the only way people will believe the presence of non-human intelligence on our planet. But there might be something similar hidden that attorney Daniel Sheehan mentioned. Dan Sheehan was interviewed with Clint Weldon of Night Shift. Clint Weldon started by talking about how many people feel overwhelmed with recent events. And naturally, regular people like you and I, were overwhelmed just by paying bills and raising kids. And all this UAP stuff is just additional, and it might be overwhelming for most. Okay, so Clint Weldon asked Daniel Sheehan if he could describe what he anticipated would happen during the disclosure moment. And Sheehan said that he believes that there would be an aha moment where there would be a clear distinction between what happened before this revelation and what comes after. From that point onward, everything will change, he said, and the world as we know it will transform. However, he said, I'm uncertain about the specifics of that transformation. Or he spoke about the existence of a video capturing an actual interview of an actual extraterrestrial being. And I think I may have that. Sheehan describes this video as a critical piece of evidence, likening it to quote unquote crown jewels.
Person from the National Reconnaissance Office assigned to the UFO task force inside the Office of Naval Intelligence comes forward under oath and testifies to a House committee, all on video, and it only sinks in with about 2 to 3 or 4% of the people in the country because they're off doing something else. So the question is, how specific does it have to get? How graphic does the information have to be? You always hear about, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Or why don't they land in Central Park, like Keanu Reeves did? And so that, I don't want people being Pollyanna-ish about this, I don't want people to say, oh, good, they're all going to come down and they're going to save us. They're going to cure cancer. They're going to give us an alternative source of energy so that we don't have to burn fossil fuels. They're going to, give us some new means so we don't need nuclear power. But I don't believe that Stephen Greer on the one hand and Lou Elizondo represent the antipodes of this particular debate. What I disagree with Stephen on and have is that I don't believe that the national security state people, as nefarious as they are, and I might add that I'm much more aware of their nefariousness than possibly Stephen is, even because I've dealt with them, for 50 years. That I don't believe that they're going to try to fabricate a false flag attack. I don't believe that they're going to take some of these back-engineered craft and pretend that they're invading us as an alien species so that they can maintain their control over the national security state and get endless funding for a new round of weapons to fight off the aliens. I don't believe that that's happening. On the other hand, he does assert, as you saw, so that they're all friendly. They're going to be really helping us. They're all here to help us. They're just waiting for us to qualify to be citizens of the Galactic Federation and all that. I think that's a little bit Pollyanna-ish. But with regard to Lou, whom I know very well, it isn't that he is saying that the alien civilization actually constitutes an actual military threat to us. What it is that the national security state people believe that if they're not in complete control to establish full spectrum dominance and control militarily of the field of battle, they view anything that threatens that as a national security threat, because they conflate national security with their complete dominance. That none of that is true. And that isn't what Lou means when he's talking about there being a potential national security threat. He's talking about that former perception that it's over matching our technology. And so therefore we view it as a threat. So I don't believe that they are the two antipodes of this conversation. I think, and I don't necessarily want to encourage a dialectic over this issue. But what I'm saying is that what we have to do is come to grips with a whole new paradigm that enables us, most importantly, to realistically and honestly preserve our sense of self-value in the face of a civilization that has people that probably have lived for 8 billion more years than we have, and that have settled some of these major cosmological questions that we still have, basic theological questions that we still have.
Okay, so that was Dan Sheehan, the constitutional lawyer that also represented the whistleblower Lou Elizondo. He has a lot of good points that he makes there. He doesn't necessarily see Dr. Greer and Lou Elizondo as opposites in terms of their point of view of the UAP phenomenon. But he also speaks of the existence of a video capturing an actual interview of an extraterrestrial being. Sheehan describes this video as a critical piece of evidence, likening it to crown jewels that authorities might be hesitant to unveil. And Clint Weldon on the Night Shift show, which is where this interview was taken from, he tries to get clarification, and he keeps questioning Dan Sheehan about this groundbreaking evidence and when this might see the light of day. And Dan Sheehan's response is sort of suggestive. He claims to have first-hand knowledge from an individual associated with this video evidence. Sheehan also underscores the potential impact, stating that its release would be a game changer, compelling even the most skeptical to acknowledge its authenticity. He goes on to say that when this video is shown to the American public, all bets are off. There's nothing that can be denied anymore. Up until now, even with David Grush, who is from the National Reconnaissance Office and is assigned to the UFO task force inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, coming forward under oath and testifying to a House committee, all on video, he says, it only resonates with about 2 or 3 or 4% of people in the country because they're preoccupied with other matters. Yeah, like making a living, raising your kids, paying the mortgage. That's understandable. So he goes on to say, the question arises, how specific and graphic does the information need to be? You often hear, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Yeah. Why don't they land in Central Park like in the movies? The goal here, he says, is to gradually reveal the information so that more and more people can have that quote unquote aha moment and say, okay, now I know it's true. I'm going to show what I think is the video that he's referring to. And this was provided by a whistleblower that used to work at Area 51. The only name he provided was Victor. And this was supposedly videotaped in the S4 section of what's known as Area 51.
I made it very clear to Victor that his credibility was the entire issue here. And that everybody.
This is Tom Coleman, president of Rocket Pictures, that took the video.
How are they going to possibly verify this? What he said was, you can do anything you want in terms of verified, any type of due diligence. He will answer whatever questions put forward. We could do whatever type of checking. We could bring in experts. We could have the tape tested. We could, in fact, he encouraged all of these aspects. He just did not want his face and his real name revealed.
What can you tell us about the alien interview we're about to see?
This one is rather recent, very late in the series. The interview process has been ongoing since the being arrived, which was in 1989. Approximately twice a month, they sit it down for a session that generally lasts from 3 to 5 hours. If they try to go longer than that, or if they schedule the sessions more frequently, the being becomes unresponsive. There's a fair amount of infighting among the scientists from different disciplines to get their questions asked.
What has the alien revealed?
Various minor technical details of the saucers. The physicists and engineers are frankly frustrated. They feel the being is withholding information. Possibly concepts are getting lost because all the information has to come through a telepath. But also it may be that the bulk of their scientific knowledge is just too advanced to be translated into our primitive conceptual framework. It's analogous to if a human scientist were to try to translate quantum mechanics into the grunts and screeches of a chimpanzee.
That's not a very flattering comparison.
Frankly, there's a high attrition rate for scientists in the program. You'd think they'd be energized by the challenge. But a lot of them take the ego deflation very hard when they find out not only how much they don't know, but how much they aren't even capable of understanding.
What else has the alien communicated?
When you're dealing with beings whose intellect is so far beyond your own, I don't think it's safe to assume they have your best interests at heart.
What about the content of the tape segment you brought?
Okay, folks, what do you think? It's a lot of darkness. Could easily be a puppet. But they say that Gray's eyes are sensitive to light. That could be a reason for the darkness. I think there's a moment here where technicians come in after the alien starts to have a coughing fit. That device with the light in front of it, if you guys are seeing this, I think that's supposed to be monitoring its vital signs. I had an interview early on, months ago, with Jon Stewart, the ex-politician who actually went to Congress with this tape. And he knows all about it. He spent a lot of time studying this tape, and he was petitioning Congress to show this tape. Whether or not he's been successful, I'm not sure. Okay, here's the coughing fit the gray alien has. And you'll see the technicians come in now and try and dislodge something from his mouth, I assume. Okay. So we have lights here, checking his mouth. Alien has its mouth open, they're wiping around the mouth.
You removed the soundtrack from the tape before you turned it over to this program.
That's correct. I can't allow the voices of the project personnel to be heard by the general public. There's a very good chance their family or friends on the outside might recognize them.
Isn't your purpose in releasing this tape to expose Area 51 to the world?
My purpose is to expose the existence of the aliens, not compromise these individuals. I made the decision to come forward. I'm taking precautions to protect my own identity, and I don't think it's fair for me to put these others in danger of exposure. In any case, the interview on the tape went nowhere. It was interrupted, as you'll see.
Can you describe for us what we're seeing?
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4. It's kept dark for the comfort of the aliens.
Okay.
The figure who is just barely visible in the left foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a raked seating area for observers. Although in this case, I believe the only other person present was a military aide. The alien is seated behind a glass partition in a biocontainment area, which is maintained at Biosafety Level 2, the lowest designation. That's primarily for the protection of the aliens, not us. The theory is that if they were going to infect us with an alien bug, it would have happened 50 years ago. In fact, all the indications are the aliens eliminated microbial and viral life from their own ecosystem long ago. They aren't susceptible to our diseases directly, but it has been shown that microbes can reproduce and form colonies within their respiratory systems, which tends to exacerbate the debilities they seem to suffer anyway in our environment. In fact, you can see here the alien is beginning to flag. The interview was not going well. The telepath was trying to clarify some points from a previous interview, but he wasn't receiving coherent responses. As you can see, the being is in real distress. At this point, the telepath is sending out a message to the medical staff. He's trying to communicate with the alien, but he's getting no response. There's very little he can do. There's no direct connection between his space and the biocontainment area. That's the aide stepping in on the right. The medical staff should be there by now. They're slow in responding. There they are. I have to say, the medical personnel at S4 are less than first rate. They tend to be selected for their willingness to keep secrets, rather than their medical competence. By the way, he's not shining that light into the eyes. It looks that way, but in fact he's checking for hemorrhaging around the eye sockets and in the nasal cavity. I'm sorry. It's very hard for me to watch this.
You're asking me if I think this is real? That have I finally seen a space alien? I don't know. The version like the alien autopsy, it doesn't attempt to distract you away from the alien. It doesn't have that cinema verite, black and white. It doesn't go to great lengths to try to fool the audience. It's straight ahead. It's an alien on tape. Pretty much the way you'd probably film it. The point is this: what if it is real?
So as Tom Coleman so eloquently put it there. Um, what if it is real? I mean, it doesn't seem to have a lot of theatrics to it. It's just straightforward. Um, Victor, the whistleblower there, was very defensive, but can you blame him? Especially back then, he was putting his life at risk just by exposing this video, and he had snuck it out. A copy of this video, he snuck it out himself. Probably would have been in a lot of trouble, put in prison for a while, if not assassinated, according to the way past whistleblowers have been treated. I did a podcast last June the 17th of 2023, if you guys want to check that out. And I actually had Jon Stewart, the ex-presidential candidate, ex-politician, not the comedian. And the podcast, it's called Alien Interview. And that was done on June the 17th of 2023. And Jon Stewart had worked on this particular interview tape provided by Victor, the whistleblower. And he had worked on it for about a year with professionals. And he brought it to Congress, and he was petitioning Congress to include that in the UAP hearings. So I guessing that this might be the very same one that Dan Sheehan is referring to when he says that he has or he may be revealing a tape of an interview with an actual extraterrestrial. Sheehan also provides an analogy for why extraterrestrials do not just land in Central Park and how they might view humanity. He suggests that these beings might be observing humanity's conflicts and lack of unity. While humans are engaged in wars and conflicts, the extraterrestrials might perceive Earth as a volatile place. They might be waiting for humanity to evolve, cultivate unity, and develop a shared consciousness before revealing themselves more openly. I think the military sees them as a national threat because they're so far beyond us intellectually, spiritually, and most importantly, technologically. Dan Sheehan also continues to elaborate in that interview on the challenges faced by those trying to bring these matters to public attention. He acknowledges the threats made to individuals in positions of power who might attempt to push the disclosure agenda. He also describes his involvement with the New Paradigm Institute. It's an initiative aimed at educating the public about these matters. If you guys want to just go on the newparadigmproject.org, it's real easy to contact your representative, and it's just a couple of clicks, and you send them a message about more transparency, wanting more transparency, about wanting more UAP hearings. I hope you guys enjoyed my sneak preview of what Dan Sheehan might be revealing to the public or to Congress in the coming months. My name is Al Barrows. This has been UFO Disclosure. Please keep searching for the truth. My website is ufo-disclosure.com. My Instagram is UFO Disclosure Podcast. My Twitter is UFO Disclosure with an underscore at the end. And my YouTube channel is UFO Disclosure B as in Bravo, R as in Romeo, 3YY. Please help protect the children in war-torn countries like Gaza and Ukraine. Let's manifest a shield of protection over these kids. They're lonely and afraid. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my podcast.